Thanks for having me. It's a great platform, and I really am honored to basically come and speak to you guys. And my first slide is what you see here. Is a very is I think one of the most circulated WhatsApp forwards in the last 1.5 years, in which everybody is kind of saying who led the digital transformation of a company. And to me, although everybody is kind of circling and saying COVID did, actually it is the customer who did. And my talk today is going to be around what did the customer change, and if the customer is so powerful in today's context, what is it that the organization need to do to basically transform? So we have been hearing about CX as a concept for quite some time now. It is when we were, I think in the last century, people used to talk about customer centricity. In the last 2 decades, people have been talking about customer experience. And I think the impetus which has been given by COVID to the CX journey is really huge. And what I'm going to talk you through is what is needed to be a customer-centric organization so that you can deliver a great CX. We have been kind of giving lip service by saying that, okay, if we kind of go into digital commerce, we are. Piyush was talking about a lot of technology. So there is AR, VR, there is conversational commerce, there is digital commerce. There are so more interactive technologies with the consumers which are out there. But are those the real answers to a CX journey? And my answer is that partly yes and partly no. And that is what I think most of the organization and leaders need to understand, that CX is not about bringing in a new technology solution for the consumer. Yeah, it is much more than that. And we will kind of, in the next 10 to 12 minutes, I will kind of walk you through what that journey of CX transformation looks like. So if we were to look at some data around digital transformation has accelerated. There is no denying the fact of that. What was supposed to be done in next 15 years is now possible to be done in about 5 to 6 years. And what I think the targets that people were talking about of achieving in 25-26 are already being achieved as we speak. Yeah, with the amount of penetration of digital commerce, amount of penetration of quick commerce, and so on and so forth, and innovation which is happening, the entire digital transformation journey has been accelerated, and it is predominantly driven by the consumer per se. But what is happening is, while 84% companies believe that digital transformation is going to be crucial for business performance, only 3% of the companies have actually finished any kind of company-wide digital transformation initiative. And that to me is an alarming signal. And what I mean by that is, there is this force of digital native organizations which are coming up. And there is this so-called non-digital native enterprises which are trying to create a space for themselves. Until unless the non-digital native enterprises are able to transform their ways of working, their business model, their digitalization strategy, and the business model per se, we will not see that number of 3% growing significantly. So what is needed in terms of the top 3 goals? This is again taken from IDC. Any digital transformation initiative in an enterprise has to comprise of 3 things. And I think people kind of construe it saying that it is more technology-led, it is more technology-driven, which is the central part of it, which is information or technology transformation. But people dealing with customer transformation is going to be the key pillar which will enable the success of a digital transformation journey. Until unless people understand that CX is core of their digital transformation journey, we will not be able to get the real value out of all the initiatives that are being taken up by the enterprises. And there is a reason why, and there is a lot of data which is kind of supporting that. Forrester, which has been a leading research organization which is doing a lot of work around CX, and there is a lot of data that they have collected over the last 2 or 3 decades. And what has been found is customer-centric companies are 60% more profitable than companies that don't focus on their consumers. Now, it is not about writing in your mission or vision statement saying that I want to be the customer-centric company of the world. It is predominantly having a strategy, having a business model such that it is near to the consumer, it is able to learn from the consumer, and it is able to interact and kind of give an experience to the consumer, which is very unique and different. And that are the companies which are 60% more profitable as compared to the others. Second fact, brands with superior customer experience bring in 5.7 times more revenue than competitors that lag in the consumer experience. And this is where the whole crux lies. You are not able to get the attention of the consumer if your experience is broken. If there is a friction in the experience, if the experience is not a wow experience, you will immediately lose your consumers. And that is why you see the multipliers are significantly high, 5.7 times more revenue than competitors with that lag in consumer experience. And 84% of companies that work to improve their experience report an increase in their revenue. And hence, if you look at these three statistics, it increases your customer satisfaction index, it increases your revenue, and it increases your profit. And so, if we were to ask me what is going to be my key pivot on my digital transformation journey, it has to be customer experience. And there is no other factor which we need to look at to achieve that digital transformation within the organization. Again, so what is customer experience? Obviously, it is mix of internal as well as external customers, right? Internal customers are nothing but your employees, and hence we need to create a culture, we need to create an environment so that our employees are much more engaged. If our employees are much more engaged, they are able to deliver much better customer experience to your consumers, which are going to give you revenues and the profit that we are looking for. And one of the statistics from a research which has been shown is that companies where the workforce is more engaged has 2.7x higher operating margin, which means that their productivity of employees of an engaged workforce is 2.7 times higher as compared to organizations where the engagement levels are significantly low. So CX is not only to be looked at from an external perspective, CX has to be looked at from both from internal as well as an external perspective. So again, this is a data which is I think was published in 2019 by Thomas Davenport, very learned and respected researcher, who predominantly started saying in early part of the century, saying that companies need to start using data. And he was the one who kind of coined this term, saying data is the new oil and things like that. But when he wrote this article in 2019, he was he may not be very happy, saying that companies are failing in their effort to become data driven. While there have been 20 years of realization that data is going to be your new oil or new soil, still companies are struggling to understand and use data within their enterprises. Again, people are talking about data usage. There is statistics to show that enterprises today use less than 10% of data for decision making. Still, while we are talking about a large digital transformation initiative. So one of the things that we need to realize is, if you were to start on your data digital transformation journey, and CX is going to be your fulcrum or a pivot around that transformation journey, you need to be making your enterprise data driven. Data driven decision making skills are one of the key skills that need to be imbibed in all employees within the organization. So how do you basically chart out your journey? And this is a very simple 4-box model that I felt was quite relevant, in which what organization need to do is, you need to start doing everything with customer at the center of it. We have been talking about it for a very long time, but I think it is now time to say that right from my backward supply chain till my front end staff, till for my HR and all the functions need to start working in a very customer centric fashion, so that you are able to deliver that unique and a very, very rich experience to your consumers. How you do that? Using set of customer data analytics platform. Until unless you have rich customer data, your ability to be delivering an experience which is unique as or personalized and rich is not going to be possible. And hence, organizations need to set up customer data analytics platform, which basically give them a lot of insights, which give them a lot of kind of tools, which then are used to create those mindset and skills within the organization, so that they are able to create a very, very customer centric approach within their enterprise. And somehow everything has to be balanced from an economics perspective. And in the startup ecosystem, everybody is now talking about unit economics, right? What is it that is required to deliver one single order to a consumer? Yeah, and we need to understand what is the experience that we are trying to give, and what is the economic value that you are able to deliver to those consumers. And I think there is a fine balance between those two. We need to make sure that that balance is stricken such that the customer experience is not compromised, but don't start doing things by which you are able to kind of bleed so much that that your proposition to the consumer becomes so much more unviable. So I would encourage organizations to look at customer experience in a way that it is able to derive some economic values out of it. If customer experience is too expensive, look at the ways by which you can make those customer experiences that we are talking about much more economically viable. But invest on customer experience, make sure that you are able to deliver that customer experience so that you are able to kind of give that economic value back to your shareholders, which are kind of looking at multiples and returns out there. And then if I were to just summarize what is the way to start this CX journey, you need to create a CX vision, which should be encompassing as part of a larger digital transformation exercise. Assess where your current CX is. Make sure that you reach out to the consumer. Make sure that you are having candid feedback from your consumers. Don't rely on internal feedback mechanism and things like that. Go and do a lot of NPS studies and stuff like that. Build the competencies which are needed from a CX. Again, this is taken from Forrester. People can look at what are the 6 competencies of CX that they talk about, and then look at creating a technology foundation. What most of the organizations fail in understanding that they put the step number 4 as step number 1. They say, let me buy a personalization engine, let me buy an e-commerce platform, let me buy a conversational commerce platform, which will lead to a better consumer experience or a customer experience. The answer is no. You need to define what your vision and your competencies and your offerings are. Then look at a technology solution. Until unless you follow this approach, you will never be able to understand what your customer is and what you are going to offer to the consumer. So with that, I would say welcome to the CX journey. Make sure that your digital transformation initiatives are pivoted around digital and CX, and you are able to give a fantastic experience so that you can be more profitable and you are one of the most consumer loving company in the world. Thank you so much.